All right. So, since Thursday's meeting, I've had some folks reach out to me to kind of ask for some examples of, how can you start a co-op on a budget? So I'm just going to make this like really quick. What is it? Too long, don't read TDLR video. A video that's just like a bunch of extra stuff if you're worried about the cost. And I'm hoping that we can eventually have someone who, specializes in co-op financing come and give us a real presentation. But these are just some like off the top of my head examples to help you kind of visualize what it might look like to start a co-op on the cheap. So, um, some quick things, and I'm going to go through some examples actually for everything on this list. Uh, Co-op workplaces, you can soft launch a co-op workplace as a pop-up business while building community support. So you don't have to like actually get a building together. Like there are ways to do it, so you don't need to like be renting a big expensive building downtown in the beginning. And many co-ops also use crowdfunding or even grants to get off the ground. And there's different kinds of funding available, so you can kind of think about what your co-op business model looks like, and how you might approach bringing in outside funds if that's the route that you want to or need to take. And I should say as a caveat, pretty much most people under 40 at this point are going to need a level of financial help, and that's okay. That's just kind of part of where the economy is for our generation. Um, so another approach is converting an existing business, a legacy business. So we'll talk about that real quick. So sometimes businesses will actually sell, business owners will sell stock or sell the full business to their workers, and you'll get a co-op conversion out of that. Um, Okay, and so there are other sources of funding. Housing co-ops, you could start with a cooperatively managed rental. And I've actually done that, so I'll talk about that real quick. Or you could try doing something fancy and like setting up a community loan fund. Like if you have this like, vision for what you want to create. Um, so let's get into it. I'm going to talk real quick about the Alchemy Collective, a worker co-op cafe established 10 years ago in the city of Oakland, California. Um, and I'm drawing upon them because they were my neighbors. This all happened about 2 blocks away from where I lived, and this co-op was actually part of what got me excited about co-op businesses and worker co-ops. And I was also living in a housing co-op at the time. So there was a lot of neat interaction between the housing co-op where I lived and this worker co-op that was getting off the ground. And yeah, they got off the ground with nothing. And they're a testament to the fact that you can do this. So they started as a pour over table at the Oakland Farmers Market. And I should say, they're not the only co-op to have started in really simple ways. So literally they just had this pour over cup. They'd set up a card table at the farmers market, like 2 people there, and they'd make you coffee and they tell you about the vision that they had to start a worker owned cooperative coffee house, and they got people excited. They had kind of a cool logo that they put on the cups. I think I've got a photo of that in here. But eventually they saved up enough materials to get a very fancy table. 2 of the founding members working on it right there, and it became something of a pop-up. So they ended up getting a spot in the parking lot of a local business, a local cooperative business that supported their vision. So often co-ops will, you allow unused space in their co-op to be used by a new co-op that's starting up. And so Biofuel Oasis was a co-op kind of greenhouse that also sold biofuel and plants and things in South Berkeley, or North Oakland, one of those places. They share a border. So, but Biofuel Oasis let the Alchemy Collective just kind of set up as a pop-up. And there was this period for about a year where Alchemy Collective would just show up with their table at different places, and it was kind of like this big exciting thing. Like people would be texting each other about it, like, oh, Alchemy showed up, let's go get coffee, like this fun pop-up business. Oh, there's their cool logo. It's kind of blurry, but I think they had that from the beginning. So they had like pretty much they just had a cool logo and a card table and a pour over thingy in the beginning. But eventually they did 2 crowdfunding campaigns, and they raised $10,000 in each of those campaigns. And I think it really goes to show, how community members will get excited about a co-op, about especially a worker co-op, and want to support it. And the Alchemy Collective folks did a great job kind of promoting the worker co-op model and getting people excited. And check out that fundraising video here. It was made 10 years ago, so it's a little like I think we have better technology even than they used at the time to make videos like this. But yeah, they made a really good Kickstarter fundraising video that has Star Wars references and got people especially excited. They really drew upon their interest, to get people excited in their project. So check out their fundraising video, see what they did. This video they used to raise $10,000, and that allowed them to move in to their own space. So they check out that beautiful red wallpaper. It's just such a gorgeous space. If you have a chance to visit the Alchemy Collective Cafe in North Oakland, it's really beautifully designed. Like these photos that I found online don't do justice to the space. It's a really lovely place. So 10 years later, they have their own shop. They host events there. Like I've been to poetry readings and like after hours writing workshops. They're always using the space to make the community a richer, more robust place, supporting local culture and all that. And they are fully bossless and worker owned. And I actually sat down. Like I took this photo, sat down in 2014 and observed one of their worker co-op management meetings, self-management meetings, and because I really wanted to see it. I was like, is this real? Can a co-op really be fully bossless? And yes, all workers at Alchemy Collective are owners. Or you have, it's consensus process. So if one person blocks a decision, then it can't move forward until folks, workshop it and create something that everyone consents to. So consensus process is how they manage. I think they might do consensus +1, so slightly modified consensus where at least 2 people have to block to keep a proposal from going forward, if I remember right, but don't quote me on that. But they use consensus process, to make sure that, everyone consents, because that's what it means to be co-owners of a business together. Other worker co-ops, especially larger ones, will sometimes use like voting and other types of democratic processes, but a smaller co-op I think can use consensus a bit easier. But there are ways that consensus can kind of be, can work in larger ones too. Yeah, so full worker owned cafe. All right, so something I want to draw attention to, real quick, another example of what I'm calling a nursing business, sort of like a nursing log, like a nursing business might use spare space and resources to give life to a new business. So with the biofuel oasis helped incubate Alchemy Cafe back when they were just a little table. In a similar way, University Press Books in Berkeley, where I worked, we actually incubated a new business on our back porch, Cafe Alone, run by members of the Alone Nation, and it's a cafe where they work to revitalize the Alone language and Alone cuisine. And they started out as a pop-up, like 2 days a week on our back porch, on the back porch of this bookstore. And as you can see, it's like, really beautifully decked out, but like, that's the size of this porch. And they really made it work as a cafe. And now they have their own space. So, you can start as a pop-up, you can find a like-minded business and see if you can, work something out to sort of be incubated in their space until you raise enough funds to get your own space. That's something that's totally done all the time. So another process, converting legacy businesses. And I put the NWCBC page on the legacy project up here. So a number of small businesses, the small business owners are retiring. The baby boomers will be I'll be 60 years old by 2024. And as business owners from this cohort plan their retirement, like there's the question of how to keep their business around, how to preserve this business. So some of them are selling the business to their employees, like as a cooperative, or using other types of plans. But like this can be an exciting way to keep legacy businesses around, if there isn't another plan for the business owners. So you can check out more about what the NWCBC is doing with legacy businesses at this website here, in the corner there. Another funding idea, building support with the city. So in 2019 in Berkeley, the city of Berkeley committed $100,000 to worker cooperative development, and this was part of an ongoing thing, where there was like a pilot project, and they were like, okay, we're going to expand this and fund this, so much of that money goes to incubate new worker cooperatives and transitions of legacy businesses into worker cooperatives. So sometimes, if folks, really push and build local energy around cooperatives, sometimes like the city or other funding sources will realize how important these things are to support, and that can lead to funding to help start up co-ops. Also, Group Health started as a co-op, and they sometimes give grants to co-ops and to co-op affiliated organizations. So you can check out more, and this is in Washington State, at this website here. But yeah, the Group Health Foundation, that's just like one example of many places where you might think of finding funds. So we've now talked about a couple ways to approach this. You might do crowdfunding, you might slowly build interview with the city or with some municipal institution and get funding that way, or apply for grants. Grants are out there. So housing co-ops. Yeah, let's think about housing co-ops on the cheap real quick. You can try doing a co-op rental. So yeah, here's kind of the recipe. I was just explaining this to someone who was asking about it. I ended up doing a thing, and I'm not going to read that whole thing, but basically I found a group that was interested, like using Craigslist. It was me and one other friend. We wrote out our co-op house bylaws, figured out some intentions for the space, and then we put that all on Craigslist and ended up having a bunch of people respond, and we interviewed 20 people before we narrowed it down to 5 other folks with us who helped us search for 3 months to find a beautiful green Victorian that we all rented together in Westlake, California, in a neighborhood in Los Angeles. And yeah, we ended up paying half of market rate for our rooms, and also had like giant living rooms. It was really, really nice just to create a rental, with the co-op agreement as a group. And rental co-ops are definitely treated as regular co-ops, and all right. And I'm just going to encourage you to check out this article on shareable.com from last year, actually, how to start a housing co-op. It has a lot of good information there by someone who does housing co-op development. Yeah, it's in California, but a lot of these things apply elsewhere. And it includes like doing rental co-ops, finding a mentor from another successful co-op, all these things. I should say that I had already lived in co-op houses in Berkeley for about 5 years before I started the co-op house in Los Angeles. So I was kind of the mentor for that house. But I would say, personally, like, my experience with co-op housing has been in California. So you really want to find, if you're starting a co-op house in Washington State, some experienced co-op housing people from Washington State, because they're going to know the legal code and approaches a little better than myself. But if you're just starting a rental, Yeah, that's basically the same here. And so this was the process for the rental. The cool thing about starting a rental is it can be a great way to build support towards eventually getting a land trust or another kind of support. So if you're all renting a house together and then you start, maybe working with a land trust that might buy a house that you can move into and build equity towards ownership for, or whatever the plan is, you know, renting together and having a cooperative house agreement together and like abiding by that and having consensus meetings, all that stuff is going to look really good for the kinds of organizations um, that support co-op house purchasing and incubation. Okay, and another quick example that I've brought up in the last 2 weeks, when somebody was asking me about ideas for starting kind of a larger scale co-op. A really cool example to think about is the Los Angeles Eco Village. They're almost 30 years old, and they did this thing, the Ecological Revolving Loan Fund, where they basically created a small community loan fund, that was specifically designed to do their project. And their project is just so cool and exciting because like they host permaculture retreats there, so people live there. It's like a live workspace, but they also do a lot of work to support this sort of common good cause of helping Los Angeles become more sustainable. So you can kind of think about maybe if you want to do like some kind of large scale housing situation that the community would be excited about, you might think about starting a revolving loan fund and trying that approach, kind of similar to crowdfunding in a way, but it's a loan fund. So and a very worth checking this out. The URL is down there in the left corner if you want to go to the website and read their fact sheet with info on that. Okay, so here's some resources, some websites you can visit. Do be sure to check out the Alchemy Collective fundraising video. It's just fun and can give you an idea of how you can approach crowdfunding a co-op. And here's my contact info. Lots of luck with your endeavors. I hope that you'll use the listserv to reach out to other folks in the co-op community and voice those ideas, because sometimes just sharing what it is you want to do, you'll find out about amazing community resources. So sometimes just sharing your idea is a great way to get the ball rolling. Okay, have a great week.